Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the pre-lesson for doing our next part of 8th grade math, which is geometry. So in order to do the geometry section in 8th grade math, we have to be really good at graphing and knowing where the ordered pairs are. So I thought it'd be a good idea to review the coordinate system, how to graph, and how to identify ordered pairs. So the front of the notes today that we have talk about the coordinate system. So a coordinate system or coordinate plane is this right here, and it's used to locate points on this plane. So what we want to fill in is the horizontal number line is the x-axis here. The vertical number line is the y-axis. And the intersection in the middle is called the origin. So you want to make sure you fill those in and know what those are. Now, one thing to note is that as you go around, these are the quadrants. There's obviously 4, but they go in counterclockwise direction. So this is quadrant 1, and it's always in Roman numerals. And then this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. Okay, so if you need to pause the video here, go ahead and do that to make sure that you have this in. But we're going to move on. So any point can be located within one of the 4 quadrants in the coordinate plane using a specific ordered pair of numbers called its ordered pair, right? And so it's x comma y, so it's always, how far you go on the x-axis and then how far you go on the y-axis. The first number in an ordered pair is the x-coordinate. The second number is the y-coordinate. So 3 is going to be your x-coordinate here, and 2 is your y-coordinate. So a point is defined on the coordinate plane by one and only one ordered pair. So that's the review notes. Now let's go with the back side of this, which is practicing and remembering how to identify ordered pairs and label and put them on the coordinate grid. So let's zoom in. So this is the other side here, right? Zoom in, and we're going to practice on a couple of exercises. Okay, so the first thing is just being able to identify the ordered pairs when they're already graphed, okay? So remembering how to go. So we always go, when we are doing ordered pairs, we do the x-coordinate first and then the y-coordinate. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. So P right here, right, is located right here on the graph. And so one way, if it's already graphed for you, that you can do that is you can know that your ordered pair is going to go x comma y. And so if you put your pencil or your pen onto that point and then you follow it up to the x-axis, that number is 2. See, on x-axis is going this way, right? So that's this one. And then you go back to it and you follow it to the y-axis, that number is -3. So that's one way you can do this. Okay, let's do it again for Q. So Q, same thing. Let's go to the point with our pen or pencil. And remember, X is always first. It always goes in alphabetical order. So X comes before Y in the alphabet. It does the same with an ordered pair. So follow it to the X-axis. That number is -3. Follow it over to the Y-axis, and that number would be -2 for Q. Now, the other way of doing this, which will help with putting it on the graph, is by following it left and right. So we can also do this. Let's show you for R. So R is right here, right? So one way to do this is think of it as a direction where you use the x-axis first and then the y-axis to do this. So if this were a direction starting at 0, 0, the x is 1. We'd have to go 1 right. So that's going to be our x. And then we would have to go 3 up. That would be our y. Okay, one more time with S. So S, x comma y. If we are to do it that way, starting at 0, 0, starting at the origin, we have to go use our x-axis first. So you'd have to go to -2. That would be our x. And then we'd have to go up to +2 on our y. And then we would get to point S. Okay, so that's a reminder of how to identify ordered pairs. And then the other part that we really have to get good at is graphing them. And we've done this before lots of times, but just a reminder is a good idea before starting this. All right, so if it says to graph and label each point, we have to find the point -1, 1, and then we're going to label it with the letter A. That's what that tells us. So remembering that this is using the x-axis and this is using the y-axis. So I'm going to label them a little bit more clear. So it says use the x-axis to find -1, but it's not labeled on here because there's not enough space. So you have to know that each square is worth 1 unless otherwise indicated. So it has to be labeled if it's going by anything other than ones. So -1 on the x-axis would be left 1. And then we have to go to +1 on the y-axis. So that would be up 1. So we put the dot there and we label it with the letter A. All right. So something to note is that when we do this, right, the x-axis or the first coordinate, right, is going to tell us whether we go left or whether we go right. The y is going to tell us whether we go down or up. Ooh, is that glitching? All right. And so that's what we're using here. Let's do 6. And this is one of the ones that throws kids off, right? So the x-axis is 0, right? So that means we don't move left or right at all. We're staying at 0 on the x-axis. And then the y, we're going to go down to -3 and put our dot. And we're going to label it B. All right. On to 7. Point C is 3, 2. So we're going to use our x-axis to go to 3 and our y-axis to go to 2. So we're going to go right to 3 on the x-axis and up to 2 on our y-axis because they're both positive. And we're going to label that letter C. All right. 8. Point D, -3, 1 means x-axis is -3, y-axis is -1. So we're going to go left to -3 on the x-axis, down to -1, which again is not labeled on here because of space. So you have to know that 1 down is going to be your -1. All right, label that point D. All right, E is right 1 on the x-axis, and the y-axis would be down 2. And so I already have a letter there, but I have to make sure I label this one letter E next to it. So since you see this, right, you can see that they're to the right of it and to the right of it. So I know this goes with B and this goes with E. All right, last one. X-axis is 1, y-axis is 3. So I'm going to go use the x-axis right to 1 and the y-axis up to 3, put the dot, and label it F. Okay, that's our review notes for today. And the assignment then that goes with it, it looks like this. It's got like your coordinates on one side, just like a bigger coordinate plane. And then the other side looks like those notes we just took or those examples where you have to identify them and finish the rest of it. Good luck. If you have any questions, please make sure you email me.